Hello friends, and welcome to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video. This is Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and today I'm going to be talking about all the problems with the Separatist team, or the main problems with the Separatist faction as I see them. Now, this is not a super comprehensive list. This is just my opinion as what I've looked at. Now, the reason that this video has come up is a couple of weeks ago, one of the fan favorite Friday requests was do something on the Separatist team. And as I started to build out the Separatist team, as I developed them, I was looking into them and researching them. And while they're effective individually, while there are characters that are effective individually or on other teams, as a unit, as a whole, they're really not cohesive or cohesive enough to make them viable in a number of different areas. Now, as I've done this research, as I've looked into it, I felt like there are four things that really bring the Separatist group as a whole down, and they are a victim of the power creep. They have very weak leadership. They are not super effective. The roster amongst itself is kind of awkward, and kind of with that is it doesn't do a lot of fan service. If all of those things still existed, but it did some fan service, we could forgive it. I could forgive it. Maybe you couldn't, but with this, it's just definitely one of those things that I felt like it needs to be addressed. Now, I'll go ahead and spend a little bit of time on each one of these. I will be doing another video on characters that need to be added to the Separatist faction. But really my focus on this are these four different areas where the EA and CG need to rework. I bring this up because we haven't seen a faction rework for the Separatists ever. And that is, I think, problematic. We've seen characters that have Separatist tags be reworked, but we haven't seen Separatist reworks as a whole, as a faction whole. And that's what I'm hoping we see sometime in the near future. Now, the first section that we're going to talk about is the Separatists have been a victim of the power creep. Now, for those of you who don't know what the power creep is, it essentially is characters that are older start to become less and less effective with the introduction of new characters. I mean, if you look at some of the newest characters that we've had, CLS, Fulcrum, is even the Ewoks are super awesome in comparison to the Separatist faction, because they have these new abilities, they have these great abilities, and part of that is they want people to be excited. Part of that is they want them to have fun with these new characters. But as they're introducing these new characters, they're not doing anything to balance out some of the older ones. And the Separatists, since they've been around since the start of the game, it is important for them to eventually get a rework. We know they're going to eventually get a rework. That's what I'm thinking, that because the power creep has gotten so far, it's gone so far that really the Separatists, as a faction whole, aren't super effective. Right? You can't have a team of Separatists like you can have a team of Rebels, like you can have an Empire team, like you can have a even a droid team that aren't Separatist. A Jawa team you could still do to an extent. You can't really do that with the Separatist team. And hold your own. I mean, now that they've made it easier to do Galactic War, yeah, you can go through. What I would like to see is that power creep being rebalanced. I would like to see when they eventually do rework the Separatists, I wouldn't like to see them super awesome, amazing. What I want them to see, I want to see is competitiveness. I'm excited that we have in the new Rey a character that's good, that's going to make the Resistance team viable in Arena, but isn't going to break the bank in as far as every area of the game. I'm sure there's going to be areas of the game where she's not going to be as effective. Right now, you can use CLS in pretty much every single area. There are 4 or 5 teams of the heroic tank that he's good on. You can solo on auto with a CLS team. I mean, for the heroic Rancor, he's good in just about every phase, and he is one of the highest meta characters in the game. Commander Luke is the most used leader amongst the top 100 players in the top 100 spots, or the top 1 spots of the game. That's important. That's a huge thing when he's that useful. No other character is that useful. And so what I'd like to see is a team that creates equilibrium, that has a faction that makes the Separatist viable again without overdoing it. Really, that's one of their biggest problems. They have been the biggest, if they've been a big, or if not the biggest victim of the power creep, and that needs to be adjusted. Number two is kind of obvious. They have very weak leadership, and any group that has weak leadership will not stand. Right? They just won't. There are 4 leaders in the Separatist faction. There's SWGOH Ventress, there's General Grievous, there's Newt Gunray, and there's Pogo the Lesser. Now, SWGOH Ventress, her leadership isn't a Separatist leadership ability. It is a Night Sister leadership ability. So as far as leaders, she's not useful for a Separatist team. General Grievous, not only is he the most difficult character to farm in the game, they've made it a little easier to farm him since they've added him to another one of the shops, but man, is he tough to get. And really, his leadership is a minus critical damage and a minus critical chance, which is fine, but if you have characters that don't rely on crit damage, then you're going to struggle. He's not useful as a leader. Newt Gunray has been effective a few different times. The Nutini team was phenomenal. For those of you who don't remember, you can check out my video in the link above, or the link below. But Nutini was great, but he got neutered because he didn't apparently function the way that he was supposed to. And that's sad. Now, finally, Pogo the Lesser. For someone who is a Geonosian, he should help Geonosians as well, or all Separatists. Now, he does help droids, and he's good with the droid team. And they're not terrible characters, but as leaders, they're just not super effective. Now, the 5th character, and I forgot about this guy, is obviously Count Dooku. Now, Count Dooku gives evasion up, and that's beneficial. But when you start getting into different areas of the game, and with the current Separatist team, that's not the most effective combination. Now, the next section that I'm going to talk about is really the roster itself is kind of awkward. You have SWGOH Ventress, B2 Super Battle Droids, Count Dooku, General Grievous, Geonosian Soldier, Geonosian Spy, IG-100, Newt Gunray, Pogo the Lesser, and Sunfac. You have 4 Geonosians, not even enough to have your full squad. The Geonosian leader is only effective, is most effective with droids and not with Separatists. What I would like to see, or not even with its own Geonosians, what I'd like to see is a more effective combination, a more effective synergy amongst his fellow Geonosians, amongst his fellow Separatists. We don't have a ton of droid characters that are Separatist characters. We have a ton of droids, or we have a heap of droids, but we don't have a heap of specific droid Separatists, or droids that are on the Separatist team. And I think that is a problem. Not one of these abilities, not one of these leadership abilities is for all Separatists. They are for either all characters or whatever. Now, that does make them more inclusive, that does make them more effective in the general sense, but it doesn't give a bonus to people who want to run just a specific Separatist team. Now, again, if they just had one extra piece, one extra thing saying, hey, Separatists get this extra tag, Separatists get a +10 speed or +15 speed, or Separatists get a bonus or whatever against, you know, something, whatever, it doesn't matter, but that would increase their viability within their own faction. And that's really what my focus is here. And then finally, I want to finish off. There isn't a whole lot of fan service. There's a lot of great Separatist characters that we don't see. Now, again, there's Separatist characters in the game that don't have a Separatist tag. And I'll spend more time on that. But it is frustrating because while the Separatist is not one of those factions that is the most fan favorite team, or the most fan favorite. I get that. I totally get that. But what is frustrating is I'd like to see more and more of those characters worked into that. I'd like to see more fan favorites worked into the game, period. But I understand that that's going to take time. What I would like to see specifically is we have characters already in the game that should have a Separatist tag. Now, we'll talk about those in another video, but guys, you know who I'm talking about. You know that the majority of the Sith in our game are also, not even the majority, but a number of the Sith in the game are also Separatists in one form or another. And while they work together as Sith, it would be cool if they could benefit or help benefit the Separatist team. I would love to see more synergy there. Now, with that, I will go ahead and leave, but those 4 things are really the ones that I came up with. I know there's more. I know there's more stuff that people are frustrated with. But what do you think? What are some of the big drawbacks to the Separatist team? Leave a comment in the section below and let me know how you view them, what you think of them. Do you use them? If so, where do you put them? And if not, why? Let's talk about it. Let's see. Maybe we can cause a stir, and maybe we can make this be heard. How would you adjust the Separatist faction? What would you add? Who would you add? And how would you change things? Like I said, leave a comment in the section below. Like, share, subscribe. This has been Thaddeus from Going Nerdy. And as always, my friends, stay nerdy.